Cloud agents with Cursor. First, let's explain a bit just for those who don't know what is an agent itself. So basically, you have large database, large language models that when you combine this with the capability of using tools, this is an agent. This is basically it's a model capable of using tools. So let's start first with explaining a local agent, and then let's proceed with a cloud agent. So a local agent, this is basically when every developer is working with Cursor or Windsurf or Cloud Code or Anti-Gravity. You're basically working with the local agents, and you can have a couple of them, for example, in your machine working. And the idea here is mostly to be like behind the agent in some kind of step-by-step revision basis of what is the output of the agent, right? So you can have that granular control of the different changes that it's doing. A really cool feature that Cursor has for this is showing the file lists for the agent works, pretty much like would be for GitHub differences, sorry. So this is basically the schema for a local agent workflow. And this is, again, of course, in your machine. But this is the case for cloud agents. So there's a difference here. And the idea is that with this approach, you actually delegate whatever you need to work, you need to have the agent working on to an agent, but in an isolated environment. In this case, it's going to be working in a remote machine in an external server. Why doing this? Well, it has multiple benefits, but basically, you are not actually depending on your device resources. For example, if you run out of internet connection, the agent simply stops working. And also, if you want to have multiple agents working, are going to clash, basically. But this is not the case with cloud agents. So the idea here is to delegate the task. You can have many of them working in the same repository, of course, in different branches, and you can actually focus on other stuff once the agent's finished. So the idea here is that you switch to more like an orchestrator role, right? So that's the idea. And you can start using this like right now. It's really straightforward to do it with Cursor. You need to do these steps. You need to go to the onboarding page, which is cursor.com/agents. And in case you don't have an account, you need to create one. Cloud Agents is specifically available starting from the Pro plan, which is, I think, like $20 or so. And then you will have access to do this feature. So then once we are back here, you need to allow access to the GitHub repositories, choose one repo and click start. An agent will start automatically configuring the environment here, and we'll see why soon. But when it finishes, any new agents can start working properly. It's pretty much the same interface as will be for ChatGPT. It's like a chatbot. It's in the Cursor website. And you can also do this from the CLI and from other parts. For example, you can connect it to Slack and interact from there, or for example, from GitHub. You're going to see this one. So I'm going to skip the pros and cons for now. We'll move first to the examples, and then we'll go out to this one. We have the pros and the cons for both the local agents and cloud agents. In this case, to test the feature, we tried 2 test cases. First one is a proof of concept, yes. And it was rebuilding the Rootstock Indexer from scratch. Some kind of like a first iteration just to experiment. And in the second, this is the image at the right. And then I decided to try it in a real task that we have in our backlog, which is optimize an endpoint for our backend. And that is the second image. So the idea is to showcase the workflows of the agents and the repos and peers and what configuration we use for this. So I'm going to exit the presentation mode. Okay, so this is the interface. Let me check. Yes. So this is the interface that you have for cloud agents. In this case, if we go to a new agent, you can choose the repository that you want the agents to be working on. You can select the branch, the model. If you want integration from NCPs, you can do it too. Again, it's better always if you provide all the context so you can upload images, audio, whatever you consider necessary. And this is a brief history of the previous chats. When you start prompting, an agent will start working, and we'll have something like this once it finishes. So in this case, the agents, the main difference that they have against local agents is that they are running for longer periods of time and more autonomously. And they also have more tools to work with. I'm going to showcase here a bit of the work. In this case, it kept working for 20 minutes for the indexer provide. So I gave it a proper prompt for something I consider like a first iteration. And well, it kept working for 20 minutes. Of course, everything here is collapsible because it's a lot of work that the agent does. And when it finishes, the cool part is that it can actually provide you the proof that this is working. So in this case, this is called artifacts. We have image artifacts and video artifacts. We can see here that after that time working, we have some screenshots of, for example, this is a dashboard that I asked for it as a proof that everything in Indexer is working because it's pretty much a backend. So here we see the examples. And this is a video. So it's important to mention that everything shown here was made by the agent. The agent is able to run a computer like a normal human will do, and it's also able to record a video for this. And in fact, you can see that it's actually making some minor editing because it's making some in, some outs, following the cursor. And it's also navigating the project, showing all the features, which is pretty good. So the idea here is to have the agent working, and when it finishes, you check the review. This is more, and this is what I've been talking about before. It's oriented to checking the output and then deciding to measure, not being behind the agent on each step. And when it finishes, you will have here, let me move the camera here. You will have the details of the PR, right? Once you consider it that everything is good to go, you can merge it, and that's pretty much the workflow. So how does this look in the GitHub side? Well, if you open it here, so it is for once it loads. Yes, this is how we see the same PR in the GitHub. We can see here that cursor allows you to tag it, and it will reply. So this is really good for follow-ups. And in this case, I decided to pair it up with Copilot. I left it a Copilot review working. And when it finished, I asked Cursor to check all the changes, all the suggestions that Copilot made, and ask it first to confirm if it was able to see it. It was the case, so it started working on it. And I don't remember if it was in this same chat. I think it was in this same. Yes, it was in this same one. It has some kind of pre-created prompt, but it basically provides the prompt that I wrote in the PR. Pretty cool. So it kept iterating there. And in this case, that's basically the example.